the original spirit of China. A great contribution to the world. Riding the wind and waves, it reaches millions of households. Now, let's take a look at how rice transformed from a wild grass into the ultimate champion of the plant kingdom. In the chilly February of early spring, rice seeds awaken after being kissed by warm water. For a grain of rice, the greatest fortune is to continue reproducing and thriving. Over 10,000 years ago, a wild grass trapped in a swamp revealed its ambitions. Using its cunning and barbed awns, it successfully formed a partnership with humans. This marked the beginning of their first collaboration. Wild rice, an annual aquatic herb, was quite different from the cultivated rice we know today. From afar, it looked like a weed. And up close, it was still just a weed. Its seeds had long awns. And once mature, they would change color and fall, attaching to animals and traveling far to start new lives. Rice and water, the bond is essential. Emerging from clear water, ancient people modified fields for its growth. After thousands of years of domestication, it has taken its present form. Today's pampered rice has shed its awns and lost its freedom, but it has traveled further. Following human footsteps, it has successfully taken root in 113 countries. Sprouted seeds are scattered into fine seedbeds, where they must quickly anchor into the earth and sprout new leaves. Seedlings first exhaust the energy of the seeds, then work with all their might to absorb sunlight and claim their territory. After growing in seedbeds for 2 to 3 weeks, the seedlings' roots intertwine so densely in the soil that they form a thick root mat. If they were left to compete further, their leaves would yellow and their roots would wither, leading to decline. Once the seedlings reach 20 to 30 centimeters in height, they face their first separation. Farmers use specialized techniques to uproot them entirely. Experienced farmers who have worked with rice for decades can easily detect hidden spies among the seedlings. Weedy rice is the bane of farmers' work, and also the most successful type of weed. It shares the same genus, but is a different species from cultivated rice. After millions of years of evolution, it looks almost identical to rice, except that it hasn't evolved the soft, white, fuzzy ligules of cultivated rice. Even with its impressive mimicry, a weed remains a weed at its core. Rice stems feel solid and upright, while wheat stems feel soft and weak. People often say, at worst, I'll go back to farming. But failing to distinguish between rice and weeds would only lead to embarrassment. Farming is not as simple as you imagine. Even the best farmers can miss a few weeds. The unremoved weedy rice, once it follows the main crop into the fields, activates its most aggressive mode. Not only does it take up limited resources, they even secrete a special substance to inhibit the growth of rice. While the moisture at the roots of the seedlings hasn't evaporated, farmers must quickly transport them to the fields. If left out of water for too long, the leaves will dehydrate and curl, affecting the growth of the plants. Rice doesn't have specific soil requirements. In high temperature, high humidity areas, it can be harvested 3 times a year. The lower the temperature, the longer the growth cycle. In northern regions, it's planted only once a year. With advancements in technology, rice can now grow in mountains, seas, and even outer space. The limited arable land cannot sustain the rapidly growing population. Long ago, people moved rice cultivation to the mountains. They carved mountains into terraced steps, transported bricks and stones, and dug channels to create highland swamps for rice. But where does the water for irrigation come from? Humans have long learned how to live in harmony with nature. Continuous mountain ranges transform mist into droplets, which gather at night on various plants. Under the pull of gravity, these droplets flow downward, converging into rivers. Springs that would have rushed to join rivers and lakes are intercepted midway. On these water-adjacent hills, people borrowed small patches of land to create new homes for rice. Fields left untended serve no one, but cultivated fields feed all. In the past, a farmer's life depended entirely on small plots of land. To secure water sources, villagers not only mastered the art of argument, but could also deliver endless humorous quips. Today, once prized fertile fields are overgrown with weeds taller than people. Seedlings transported from the nurseries are planted in the fields at a calculated density, leaving just enough space for them to complete their life cycle. In flat terrains, mechanized planting has quietly replaced manual labor. Mechanical farming has taken over the work of hoes and water buffalo. Seed trays have replaced seed beds, and transplanting machines capable of planting 100 acres in a day have replaced the family labor force, which once worked tirelessly in exchange for food and housing. While efficiency has skyrocketed, the sense of human connection has faded, whether by machine or by hand. Both methods require checking for gaps and replanting where seedlings have withered mid-growth. Over time, rice sheds its seedling form and grows seemingly strong and robust. But even rice faces its own struggles. Beneath the calm surface of the paddy fields, danger lurks everywhere. From the endless onslaught of golden apple snails and the sudden emergence of weeds, to the unpredictable threat of diseases and pests, every oversight could lead to reduced yields, or even complete crop failure. Fortunately, technology has significantly lightened the farmer's burden, offering effective solutions to combat these threats. However, as time passed, these resilient species developed resistance to herbicides. Farmers had no choice but to revert to traditional methods of control. After spending about 2 months in the fields, the rice plants, under the pressure of survival, finally produced panicles. However, their sworn enemies grew even faster. The weeds overlooked during weeding had already shed their disguises and begun producing robust seeds. To ensure the survival of their offspring, they had to scatter their seeds before the rice fully ripened, readying themselves for the next battle. At this stage, the newly formed rice panicles often bear empty shells. The immature grains have yet to fully develop. Over time, they slowly open up, revealing spike-like flowers and fuzzy stamens. Rice plants are monoecious, capable of self-pollination. They don't rely on insects. Gravity plays the role instead. When the time is right, the anthers at the top burst open, releasing over 10,000 pollen grains each. If even a single grain lands on the stigma below, pollination is successfully achieved. Once pollination is complete, the enclosing husk gradually closes. To give their seeds the best start in life, the rice plants tirelessly channel nutrients into the grains until they reach their breaking point. Sunny and breezy weather during the flowering phase is ideal for rice pollination. However, prolonged rainy or typhoon conditions can reduce the grain setting rate. Unpredictable natural phenomena prove that farmers truly rely on the whims of nature. Moreover, rice plants face their own challenges, such as sterility and infertility. For instance, some panicles produce flowers that completely lack pollen. Surprisingly, these sterile rice plants have contributed to increasing rice yields. In the last century, it was discovered that hybrid rice, created by crossbreeding different varieties, outperformed self-pollinating rice in terms of yield. Though the sterile rice has pollen-less stamens, its stigmas remain functional. As long as normal pollen is introduced, they can still produce full, plump grains. What's more, the next generation of these hybrids grows robustly and delivers exceptional yields. These miraculous hybrid rice fields produce grains that sell for several times the price of regular rice. This is the renowned hybrid rice cultivation method. Normal rice plants are interplanted with sterile rice plants. During the flowering season, drone propellers generate airflow, dispersing the pollen from the normal rice plants, which helps fertilize the sterile rice plants. The resulting seeds are the hybrid rice seeds sold on the market at prices of dozens of yuan per kilogram. In the scorching heat of July, it's the busiest time for farmers. After the harvest, the next round of planting begins. As the rice grains turn golden, the life cycle of the rice plants nears its end. After 6 months of hard work, farmers finally reap their rewards, finding joy in their toil. Harvesting rice. Harvesting rice is one of the most grueling tasks in rice cultivation. Even today, while machines are used in plains areas, farmers in other regions still rely on manual labor, cutting the rice stalks by hand. In the southern summer, the weather is unpredictable. Harvested rice panicles need to be quickly brought home for threshing. During the busy farming season, farm families divide tasks clearly. Adults handle harvesting and threshing, while children are responsible for spreading and turning the rice to dry. This season allows no room for error. When the weather is good, the sun shines generously, giving the farmers a breather after their harvest. But when the weather turns bad, it can rain 3 times in a single day. Rice that gets soaked by rain is prone to sprouting prematurely, producing broken or discolored grains during milling. Dried rice grains are processed through winnowers and other tools, filtering out shrunken and empty grains, before being stored in granaries. In a bountiful harvest, an acre of paddy field can yield over 1,000 pounds of rice. However, the yield from a small family plot is typically just enough to feed a household. Most farmers have to work elsewhere to supplement their income. Mechanized farming is a dream come true for farmers. During harvest, a single combine harvester can do in an hour what it would take 10 people 3 days to complete. Machines eliminate the need to transport harvested rice stalks, threshing the grains directly in the field. The freshly harvested rice is transported by truck to processing plants. As the truck bed tilts open, the rice cascades downward, landing on conveyor belts that carry it to storage facilities for drying. Workers regularly check the moisture levels of the rice. For insects, these nutrient-packed grains are a feast. Approved rice is transferred by grain vacuums to the initial processing screens, where large debris such as weeds and stalks are removed. Next, sand and stones are screened out, as these tough particles could easily damage teeth. The cleaned rice moves along the conveyor belt, flowing into a hopper above the hulling machine. Under the force of gravity, the grains are directed to rapidly rotating rollers below. Here, the husks are separated from the rice grains. The discarded husks, carried away by air currents and conveyor belts, are sent to another machine, where they are ground into rice bran, a valuable livestock feed in rural areas. The rice grains, meanwhile, are further cleaned by air blowers to remove any remaining impurities, resulting in the polished, white rice we see as the final product. With advances in technology driving productivity, small-scale farming has lost its competitive edge. Perhaps only the elderly, tied to their homeland, will continue tending small plots for personal use. The backbreaking life of toiling under the sun with feet in the soil is gradually becoming a thing of the past. A few decades from now, people might not even recognize weeds, let alone know what rice looks like. Thank you for watching. See you next time.